Welcome into another edition of the James Boyd Podcast. I, of course, am James Boyd, joined by my editor, Jim Aiello, for the second time this week because we have more Colts free agency news. Jim, between me and you, I don't know how much we've slept the last few days or how many times we've called and texted and slacked and updated the free agency tracker, but we're alive. We made it. How are you feeling?
Yeah. Good. No, yeah. I mean, like I said, there's nothing like getting a text from you at 9:30 being like Spencer Schrader, and I went down a rabbit hole, and here's like 400 words on Spencer Schrader, and I was like, oh, all right. So yeah, I wouldn't go to the go. My wife was going. She was like, I'm going to bed at like 10, and I was like, I'm gonna go pop this into the tracker real quick. And so yeah, no, but it's honestly, man, like I said, I don't mind it. It's fun. Like it's fun to. I like reading your analysis. It gives me a little background. Got to change the headline on the blog tracker because we're gonna get into this. Sorry, I'm already jumping the gun, but like
Yeah.
I am excited about the idea that there could be a kicker competition. And it is, like I said, this is a fun week, and for the first time, I know we harped on this last time, but for the first time ever, Chris Ballard has made this a fun week. It's a fun
Look,
week. We're not just frustrated with like, they should have done this or that. They're doing stuff. So
brother, I need to like mail you some flowers because I mean the victory lap you took the other day, I mean, I feel like it was just validated with meeting Charvarius Ward and obviously meeting Daniel Jones as well, but just the different moves this team has made. We talked about it briefly right there, adding Spencer Schrader as another kicker on the roster. We'll get into that.
yep.
But let's start with I would say the crown jewel so far of the free agency signings, and that would be Charvarius Ward.
Oh,
And
I was afraid you were gonna say Daniel Jones, and I
oh
was
no,
like,
no,
oh
no. I
god.
mean,
He's like the biggest name, but I wasn't sure.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
biggest
Sorry.
name.
Woo.
If we're talking about clicks, maybe that's the reason why. But no, I think the
Yes,
best
the crown
player,
jewel.
pound for
Yes,
pound, position for
I'm right there.
position, is Travarius Ward. Maybe not the most important player, but definitely the
Right.
best player and resume wise and things like that. So I had a chance to catch up with him yesterday. Obviously, we worked together on getting a headline out there. And in layman's terms, that means a news story about his
Mhm.
arrival, what he went through last year to get here now. And I'll start with this, Jim. I just thought that he commanded the room from the jump. The funniest moment of the news conference was, my boy Nate Atkins from Indy Star, who asked a fine question.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, why were the Colts are interested in you and what made you, want to come here or them want to pursue you to come here? And he goes, because I'm a great player. Like deadpan, dead serious. Like he wanted to line up against Nate or Chap or me for even asking the question. And so I jumped in because it was like this awkward pause. And I was like, well, what makes you a great player? And he's like, well, I can tackle, I can cover, I can play man, I can play press, I can play off, I can play on, I can travel with receivers, I can do it all. And he literally referred to himself, I believe, a couple of times as CB1, cornerback one, which I don't believe they've had a true cornerback one in years. And so that was very refreshing to hear. He had a very serious tone about himself. Got candid at times as well. So from your end, I know I was there in person, but just when I'm sending
Yep.
you clips and I'm sending you quotes, and I'm sure you probably had a chance to at least see a little bit since then. What was
Yeah.
your interpretation of the new CB1?
Confirmation, honestly. I've been a big Charvarius Ward fan for a while. I love the confidence he played with in Kansas City. He definitely took that to San Francisco. They were so good. He was such a big part of the reason that team went to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And then to see him bring that confidence and arrogance in a good way. I'm going to say it, arrogance in a good way. Not just confidence though. It is arrogance. What you get, you need corners to be arrogant, and I love that about him. I love what he's going to bring to the DB room. Like it's just it's just what Chris Ballard talked about doing for that defensive backs room and for the whole defense. Is he's going to bring a guy? He immediately walks in with probably more credibility. And excuse me if I'm forgetting anybody, but he probably walks into this with more credibility than anybody but DeForest Buckner, who also played in the Super Bowl and was maybe the MVP of that game had the 49ers won. So don't want to
Yep.
discredit him, but anybody else in that defense, like Charvarius Ward, is like, yeah, I've been to two. Like I have been to the mountaintop twice. Um, and I think, I guess he's one of the best cover corners when he's at his best. When he's at his best, I know he had a rough year last year, but there's a lot of reasons for that. When he's at his best, he's one of the best cover corners in the NFL. So I loved that about him. I love the confidence, and again, I really love what he's going to bring to the call. I think they need that. I think the secondary needs that. I think Lou Anarumo needs that. I think Steichen needs that. I think they need more players like this in the room to get the best out of some of the younger guys, and to more obviously take the defense to another level. We should mention Ted Wynn does a great job for us doing the analytical side of things. Was talking about the best position group improvements during the offseason, and he wrote a story about it and it included the Colts DBs, saying that they were both great fits, both Ward and Cam Bynum for Lou Anarumo's defense. So definitely worth checking that out too. But I mean, yeah, I couldn't have been more impressed with him in the way he handled his first interaction with all you guys in Indy. I mean, not
Yeah.
scared of the moment, that's for sure. He's been around this for a little bit, and yeah, he's instant credibility in Indianapolis and in that locker room.
So let's talk about how different the pursuit of him was because he was
Yeah,
on JMV 1075 The Fan, my coworker now, I guess, John Michael Vincent, which sounds so formal. You know what's crazy? I just found out like today that was his full name. I knew his first name was John, but I never even thought about what the other initials were. And I was like, John Michael Vincent. Wow. Like you sound like, you have like a court jester that's going to come through or something like that. You're sitting next to like the throne, a Game of Thrones type of name. But my buddy John had Charvarius, who wants to go by Mooney, by the way. That's his nickname, family nickname. And he doesn't really have a good reason for it. He said somebody just called me that in my family one day, and it kind of just stuck. It was Mooney Man at first, and now he's just Mooney, and I guess he wants to go by that going forward. So for the sake of this episode, I'll refer to him as Charvarius. But once we get a little more comfortable and informal, don't be surprised if I refer to him as Mooney. But anyways, they rolled out the red carpets for this man. Private jet, brought his family out there. That doesn't happen for cornerbacks. That happens for quarterbacks, but not cornerbacks. Not CB1s, but QB1s. And so that was a huge difference. But the bombshell he dropped on JMV's show was that the Saints were nearly going to sign him. He thought it was a done deal. He grew up in Mississippi, and he said that NOLA, I believe, New Orleans, is about 2 hours from where he grew up, and he thought it was a done deal. Thought he was going home, and he said the Colts, and I'm quoting him, was like, they must have seen how great of a player I was, and they doubled back. Here's a direct quote. Originally, I thought I was going to New Orleans. The deal was almost done. Then the Colts, I guess they realized how great of a player I am, and they came in and kind of beat out the Saints at the last minute. You know what that sounds like, Jim? It sounds like money. It sounds like at the last minute, the Colts were like, you know what? Let's take our price a little bit higher than theirs. And they offered him, obviously, the 3 years, $60 million. And, I mean, just to be real, the total money of contracts, especially in the NFL, because they're non-guaranteed, doesn't necessarily it matters for like the talking points on TV and amongst ourselves and our friends and family. Oh man, he's making this much on average. Doesn't work like that because contracts are structured weird. Look at the guaranteed money. $35 million guaranteed is more money than any total money of any contract the Colts have ever offered an outside free agent during the Chris Ballard era.
Yep.
So that to me is just a different move. And so, and I immediately thought of this quote that Chris Ballard gave us on the Fan at the Combine. And we used it for our story when we, I love this headline by Jim, by the way, let Chris Ballard cook, which is like a reference to DeForest Buckner and the praise that he kind of gave him during free agency. But here's the quote from Chris Ballard. There's been times when I wish I would have done just a hair more to get a couple players that we were heavily involved with in free agency. That's probably the biggest difference, like this time around. Sometimes you just got to finish it. That's what he said pre-free agency, like pre-signing Charvarius Ward. And we see, again, like you said, Jim, validation in his actions. So, I mean, does that give you a little tingle? Do you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone? How do you react to that? You covered Chris Ballard too. And it is jaw-dropping, honestly, to hear a player just validate everything that we're seeing even more.
I feel like you're asking me to take another victory lap, so I might just.
Just go ahead. You deserve it. I truly believe. I'm not lying. I would not have believed this would be the case.
Yeah, I've listened to Chris Ballard talk for enough times in my life. It's been pretty much his whole tenure. I mean, I wasn't covering the Colts yet when he took over, but I was in Indianapolis. I listened to him. Obviously, a football fan, paid attention to the Colts. He helped out the Indy Star with Colts coverage. I've been listening to him for a long time. And the way he talked, the way he sounded truly felt different to me at the end of the year. It truly did. And then he doubled down on it at the Combine. So when he started spending and the Ward contract, the Bynum contract comes out and then the Ward contract comes out. Like, I didn't think it would all happen on one day. I didn't know that he would get as aggressive as he was. But we talked about it when we did our free agency preview. We said we would know the difference in Chris Ballard if he spends on the secondary. That is the place we said, and if he spends there, we would know that he was actually going to act differently this time. And as you said, I mean, he is right now the Colts. The Colts are fifth in guaranteed money handed out so far this offseason, according to Spot Track right now. I mean, that's $82.2 million. I sent you the list the other day. I don't think they've been much above 60 in the past few years. I mean, they're never here. I can pull it up now, but they were at 68 million last year. That was retaining a lot of their own free agents. And then before that, they hadn't been above 40 million in guaranteed contracts since his first year on the job, 2017. So this year is different. He is acting different. And to get back to your point about Charvarius Ward, he pushed it over the finish line. He did what it took. And let's not shy away from giving the person signing the checks credit. Jim Irsay allowed him to do this.
Yes.
He allowed him to do what was needed, which Chris Ballard has always said, Jim will let me do what I need to do. So, you never know who's telling the truth on it. Is he protecting his owner a little bit? Is he really just saying, I have my price, I'm not going over it? It does feel like Chris Ballard was just saying, I have my price, I'm not going over it. And this time, maybe he thinks Charvarius Ward wasn't worth, was it 35.5 million guaranteed? Maybe he thinks he's worth 30 million guaranteed, but he said, you know what? This time I'm getting it over the finish line and I'm getting it done. I don't mind. This is a general free agency take. If you're listening to any NFL analyst talking about this guy got overpaid in free agency, yeah, that's what free agency is. Everyone gets overpaid. I was listening to people talk about Dayo Odeyingbo in Chicago. They're like, he got too much money. Yes, they all did. Everyone that gets to free agency gets too much money. If that's the only thing you're giving me for analysis, then try something else. Because we all know this is what this is about. Guys who are going to get paid. If you think maybe Dio's like a $12 million a year player, guess what? He gets 16 on the free agent on the open market. That's how it works. So did he overpay for Charvarius Ward? Maybe a little bit, but you know what? He got it over the finish line, and they're going to be a better DB room because of it.
Yes, 100%. And to your point, like we said, think guaranteed money. Like that's all I ever wanted. I want this is me, and I'll applaud the growth in myself if that doesn't sound too arrogant. But I mean, to be honest, I was telling somebody today, I was a big basketball, big NBA guy before I switched over to covering the Colts. And so it was kind of a terrifying transition, to be honest, because I just didn't know. Like I grew up watching so much NBA that I know how the league works and operates a lot better, or just naturally, because I mean, it's years of just seeing it, and being interested in it, to where now I feel like I've had to catch up the last few years. So now when I hear NFL contracts in particular, the first thing I hear besides, wow, it's a ton of money, is what's the guaranteed money and what's the structure? Like, is it backloaded? What's the out? Because I'm sure there's outs and, escalators and stipulations and all of these contracts. So again, to me, just tell me what's guaranteed. Yep. And then I'll judge, okay, if you tell me, you gave Dayo Odeyingbo, who again, I think is a fantastic player for what the price is for him in Chicago. If you say, they gave him $100 million guaranteed, I'd be like, okay, now he's overpaid. Like, yeah, obviously, but it's all relative to your point, Jim. And I just think that, again, it was awesome it really is kind of cool and weird. and maybe we'll see if it pays off because, everyone's excited now. It might not, but we'll see. I will say it is different. It's unique and it's refreshing to a certain degree to see Chris Ballard take a big swing and get in the batter's box. They've been on deck, I feel like, for years. And it's like, do we want to go to the plate? Do we really want to swing? And then, I don't know if it was Kevin Bowen on the Fan or somebody was like, I'd rather go up to the plate, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, and I swing and we lose versus just standing there and watching the pitch go by. And that's how I feel about this.
That's how he's been. I mean, that's how he's been. He's gone up there and said, like, he feels like he goes up there looking for a walk. That's what Chris Ballard does in free agency. He's looking to take a walk, which is fine. A walk's good. You get you on base. But I think this time he went up looking to hit a home run or at least a double or a triple. And maybe it blows up in his face, but at this point, who cares? Like, I honestly, like, if we're at the end of next season, we're criticizing Chris Ballard because Charvarius Ward fell off a cliff because he's 29, and sometimes cornerbacks fall off a cliff at 29. That does happen. And Cam Bynum isn't really the impact player outside of Brian Flores' system that we thought he might be. You know what? I'm saying it now. I'm gonna try my best not to criticize Chris Ballard for it because I understood the moves in the moment, why they made them. And again, if they blow up in his face, it's ultimately his responsibility to get these right. That's his job. That's what he's paid for. However, I get what the thinking makes sense. The process makes sense. And he finally put it all out there. And I appreciate that about it. So again, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think we're all in the same place of like, you tried. This defense actually has star caliber players at just about every level of the defense, it should be a very good defense next year. Maybe not top five. Maybe I still think it could float around the top 10 if everything clicks. If you get that next level
Look,
jump from Leatu Latu.
you're trying to make sure you're not 24th and 28th in scoring defense like you've been the
Yeah.
last few years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your bar to clear. Obviously, you'd like to be a lot better than that, but I'm just saying it's been rough
Yeah.
and very leaky with this Colts defense in recent years. And to kind of pivot a little bit to the human, the person that we got to interview yesterday in Charvarius
Mm-hmm.
Ward, no one asked about the death of his daughter directly. Personally, yeah. I just felt like it's probably not the best time to do that. I'm meeting you for the first time. Number one. Number two, you've talked about this at length already previously. It's all out there on video, on podcast, whatever. And then number three, that is yours to share when you feel comfortable. And so I just felt like, and you all know I don't pull punches when it comes to serious topics, but like there's serious football topics, like, what are you doing with the cap space and JT's contract and stuff like that when he was going through his trade saga or trade request saga. But this is different. This is personal. And so I believe it was Stephen Holder from ESPN, who asked Charvarius, you've talked about needing a refresh, a reset, changing scenery. And he got very candid. He'd never referenced his daughter specifically, but we all knew what he was talking about. He was like, I had to get out of San Francisco. It was a lot of PTSD out there. Really, it was painful to be out there. Mentally, every day, it was draining. It took a lot in me to go back to San Francisco. And he said he went back for who he called his brothers, his team, wanted to make a playoff push. But like he got very candid. He said, physically, I was on the football field, but mentally, I was kind of like retired. And he was just going through the motions. Had a down year last year. Allowed the highest completion percentage and the highest passer rating when he was targeted since his rookie year. Like, he was not himself. I mean, and this is 1 year removed from in 2023, being a second team All-Pro, 23 passes, defense, pass breakups. And this is a franchise, 23 passes, defense is a franchise record for the 49ers, who had Ronnie Lott and a guy named Deion Sanders on their team at one point. So, like, he balled out. And then tragedy stuck in his own life. He dealt with a couple injuries, had a down season. But he said after he kind of, got away from football, got away from the NFL, and he said now he feels rejuvenated, got his love back for the game, and he's hungry to prove like, that 1 year wasn't a fluke. And not saying it is. He's played in 3 Super Bowls, 17 playoff games. He's been a starter for years. But I still think he's got this chip and this hunger to prove like, no, you guys don't understand. I'm actually as good as they say, and so I'm excited to see him. I mean, the play will be one thing, and I've done this before where you will think a guy's a great human being and it just doesn't work out on the field. It is what it is. But the fact that he can be out there and find joy in it again is heartwarming to me. And obviously nothing can replace the loss of a child, but to lean on his family, get through that, get a fresh start, and find his love for the game that changed his life to a certain degree, that to me is pretty cool. And so I'm excited to get to know him on a hopefully better level. But I know you, Jim, even just from the outside looking in, must have a ton of respect and empathy. I mean, you're a father, I'm not. So maybe you can speak to just, that love and maybe respect you have for what you see in him as character-wise so far.
All I can really say is that if what happened to him happened to me, I probably would have just sat down on the football field. That would have been like my coverage at playing corner. I wouldn't have been able to function, frankly. Right. I don't think. I just wouldn't have been able to do it. So the fact that he was even able to go out there and try to do his job is insane and impressive and to his, the testament to his character, I think, and his resilience and understanding of what his role as a father, but also his role and commitment to a football team and to his job. So, I don't even like thinking about it, to be honest with you. It makes me. I don't. Yeah,
it's tough.
I don't love people. Yeah, again, I don't. I think that doesn't make me rare or special. I think a lot of people. This is a guy who went through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, him and his family, and I could not blame him even like less for wanting to get out of San Francisco, having nothing to do. I mean, like the comments beneath your stories are the best. Like,
I was looking at it. They love him out there.
Gonna miss Mooney in the Bay. I know he won't miss San Francisco for good reasons, but the faithful are grateful for him. Best of luck. Wishing nothing but the best for him as a Niners fan. None of us blame him for leaving. I mean, like, Wish him very best. Go Niners. Like, how many times do players leave and have say I and the way he said it is definitely misinterpreted if you say I just gotta get out of San Francisco. But how many players leave and show that much and the fans show that much love for a guy who's still got good ball in him and he wants to get out of there. Like I think that says everything you need to know about who Charvarius Ward is.
Oh, absolutely. And so now turning the page to this new chapter in Indianapolis, I'm just excited to see how he'll elevate this defense. He said that he's really close with Kenny Moore. He's known him for a while. Excited to play with him. Kenny seems excited based off his tweets. And then he also commended Cameron Bynum, and he was just saying, like, I can't wait to get on the field with the safety of that caliber. And he was like, and if we can kind of get this thing clicked, we believe we can force a lot of turnovers, and best believe that Lou Anarumo is, what they call him, Lou Dini, and he's somewhere trying to, whip up some potions and some spells or something like that to get this defense rolling, especially that secondary. And obviously there's more pieces to address, but I thought that, that was a fantastic kind of introduction for Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward, with the Colts fan base, who I can already tell is gravitating towards him. And obviously, the play has to back it up to keep people on your side, at least most fans. But it sounds like he's ready for that challenge. And so even the little nuggets he dropped about how talking to Lou Anarumo, he's like, yeah, Lou wants me to travel with the best receiver. And I'm excited that he can kind of teach me some more things and I can unlock even more of my potential. Just even the way he talks about the cornerback position, the confidence he has to have out there. He was telling us that he hates when a safety's not in the right position because it messes up the whole defense. And he's like, I hate a safety that's out of position. And like just the conviction to me is what stood out because, a lot of guys can say these things. They can be confident. They can, talk the talk. But like when you have that resume coming in, I've been to 3 Super Bowls. You ain't been to the playoffs. This is the playoffs is where I've resided in my career. You ain't been there. And so like, I think that'll elevate. And the last thing I'll end it on with Charvarius Ward in particular is he was saying, I think it was Jake Arthur actually from Colts SI, my guy Jake, who we're like row buddies in the media room. Row 3, Jake, if you're listening, he asked Charvarius, what are you going to bring as far as leadership? And he was like, I'm going to bring, that experience, championship level experience, a different type of mentality. He said he's not like really like a big talker, but I'm going to work every day. And I expect him to hold people accountable. And he was just saying, like, I know what it takes to win a championship, and I want to help this team get over the hump. And so it's exciting to hear that. And obviously now comes the work. Not right away, but it's going to be coming very soon. And so, I'm excited about that. And now, okay.
Wait, before you transition, I want to ask you one question.
Feel free.
I want to at least get to the negative, just the potential, the pessimist side of this, right? Okay. Because I look at Charvarius Ward, and like I said, I'm an unabashed fan of him as a player and person, frankly. But just hear me out. I'm looking at this roster, this defensive roster, and it is, again, I think it's pretty good. I think they have high upside. There's just one little thing that I think we need to go over real quick.
Oh, I know. Go ahead.
Grover Stewart's 31. Tyquan Lewis is 30. DeForest Buckner's 30. Kenny Moore is 29, and I think going to turn 30 soon. Samson Ebekam's 29, coming off an Achilles tear. Charvarius Ward turns 29 very soon. Hold on, I'm almost. Zaire Franklin is 28, and I think also, maybe I'm wrong, maybe he turns 29 soon. But that's a lot of your best players on defense, all at 28 or above, some into the 30s. I'm curious. This could be a good defense in 2025. This will not be a good defense in 2027. Like, it just won't. So the urgency is going to be there, I think, for the next 2 years for them to really make it click. This won't be a good defense with these current players. I'll have to say that Chris Ballard or some other GM couldn't put together a good defense in 2 years, just to be clear. And they have some young pieces. However, a lot of their best players are on the back ends of their careers. I don't know what the question is so much, but does that concern you? I guess that's my question. Yeah.
It concerns me a little, but it doesn't concern me more than me understanding why Chris Ballard is finally doing this. Because to me, it's moving like I'm no longer safe.
Yeah.
I'm no longer comfortable. And I'm trying to win now, which is what people have begged them to kind of do. All chips in. And don't get me wrong, like he talked about, it isn't just Chris Ballard, pulling trigger on this stuff. The guy who signs the checks had to sign off on this. When they wanted to get Charvarius Ward, Jim Irsay had to say, I will write a contract where we're going to give him $35 million. And for those who don't understand, when the money's guaranteed, it's got to be an escrow Like you have to have the money on hand. Like you can't sign a deal for $35 million guaranteed and say, "Oh, we'll get it to you," and like it's got to be there like tomorrow. So I say all that to say, yes, this is coming back to bite them. Yes, this could totally look different in a few years. Hell, a lot of these guys, players and coaches and GMs and everybody might not be here if it doesn't work out, but at least you went for it. And so you can't, what they say, scared money don't make no money. You can't win any bets if you never place them. And so I do think this is a calculated bet, not a reckless
Yeah.
one. And so
Yeah.
we will see how they respond to it. Now, to your point about where this team might be in a couple of years, it hinges a lot on who's playing quarterback. And so
Yes. Yes.
you warned me. I still tried to crack the code, the Daniel Jones code.
I didn't know that's where you're going.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
When he walked in, this
I
dude,
tried to tell you.
I saw a response because the Colts tweeted out a photo of him signing his contract. And someone said, why does he look like he's giving an update on a mid-major team in March Madness on TBS, because they have a little desk there, and he wore some very casual outfit. But all that to say, Daniel Jones, the interview, I mean, obviously not impressed, not taken aback, didn't really say much.
Yeah.
But he's here.
Never gonna. Yeah.
And that's significant. And so you had the pleasure, I don't know if it's a pleasure or the responsibility of editing a lot of Daniel Jones stories. You kind of gave me the lowdown. You actually put me in contact and gave me a great story idea to talk to Dan Duggan before we even talked to Daniel Jones, to really give some substance to what we're going to hear from the quarterback who doesn't say much. So all that to say, his arrival, what do you think about that?
Yeah. He's so boring. He's the boringest. He's so milquetoast. It's ridiculous. I actually think that part of the story that you get into that's really good, Dan Duggan actually wrote a feature on it that I got to edit a couple years ago. But like, he is universally disliked for reasons that like don't make a ton of sense, because he's not a bad person. He's never said a bad word about anybody. But like, he's so milquetoast, I think, that it annoys people. And then he got paid a lot of money, so that really annoyed people. And so guys like Zaire Franklin and the 49ers a couple of years ago were trash talking him like crazy, and even like, going on. I actually think it was Mike Silver that who didn't work for us at the time, wrote a story about their just level of disrespect for Daniel Jones. And it's just wild because his teammates love him. He is a hard worker. There's nothing dislikable about him, frankly, in terms of just his personality. So other than the fact that he's really, really boring. He's just really boring. And again, this is why part of the reason I put you, I wanted you to talk to Dan was because I was like, we're gonna write a Daniel Jones story off of Daniel Jones's availability, but like, let's not rely on that to be our best content, because it's not going to be our best content. So no, your story with Dan was fantastic. Dan is always, Dan's one of the best beat writers we have here at The Athletic, and knows Daniel Jones covered pretty much every snap of his career. So he knows him better than anybody. Why people hate him, what his strengths and weaknesses are. I thought, I will say, I mean, if you want to get into this, like, the thing that stood out to me, and I think I've maybe put a wrong foot forward here on this, was that I thought Daniel Jones would be a good mentor for Anthony Richardson. And I think he will be a good leader by example for Anthony Richardson, which is probably the most important thing. But Dan said he's not going to show a lot of interest in actually mentoring Anthony Richardson, which I totally respect. I mean, I understand that he's there to win the job and start as the starting quarterback. But I think I might have mentioned that I thought he might be a good mentor for Anthony Richardson. And maybe that's not the case.
Right, because Daniel Jones, I believe, is 27 going on 28. And when I talked to Dan, and we talked at length, like that was a lightly edited version of our, I don't know, 25-minute conversation. And it's funny, Jim, because when I asked Dan to talk for the story, he's like, am I writing? And I was like, no, you're just talking. All right, I'm in. And not that he wouldn't do it. Not that he wouldn't do it. He was just like, I don't know if I can do it tonight if it's writing, because he's with his family and all that. And I was like, no, all you got to do is just talk. And I actually like that a little bit better because it's more conversational. It's less rigid. And I think when you read it, it sounds like you listen like radio or something like that, or a podcast. So that was, shout out to Dan for just at least carving out some time, because logistically it was a little difficult to get it done. Jim stayed up late editing that thing and we got it out. But all that to say, the mentor part makes a ton of sense to me. And I kind of view it through a lens of Daniel Jones isn't done. Like Joe Flacco had been there, done that. That's the phrase that Dan kind of threw at me at the end of our phone call. He was like, these guys who are usually mentors, they've been there and done that. Or they've had a very, very obvious career path. Where in the case of Daniel Jones, it's like I was the number 6 pick. I get it was, 6 years ago at this point, but like I was you at some point. I believe I can still be a top player. Now, people can criticize him and say, oh, he's delusional. Oh, you were bad in New York, whatever. But any quarterback worth their salt drafted that high would probably still be pretty confident if they're 27. He's not 37. And so the way it was put to me and what I put in the article is like, he'll be a good teammate. He won't like necessarily like sabotage Anthony, but it's not like he's going to be like the big brother. Oh, come watch film with me after practice. Like, no, I don't know if it's going to be that, but he's definitely going to set a certain standard. And that's the other thing. Dan talked about all of Daniel Jones' struggles. And honestly, if you read the story, there's certain quotes in here, man, where it sounds like he's talking like about Anthony. It sounds exactly the same. And honestly, I don't know how much difference each player will even be if both are given the chance to play this season. Like, I don't expect there to be some crazy drastic change depending on who's out there in the offense. But to Dan's point, he was just saying like the areas in which Daniel Jones lacks are all on-field football things, nothing off the field. He's tough. He works hard. First guy in, last guy to leave, and all the cliches. And he said that's why it was so hard for New York to move on from him. Maybe they moved on too late. And also, it's hard for the teammates to maybe want a different quarterback because they know, man, this dude is really busting his butt to be the guy, and he just can't be. Now, there are a lot of factors in New York, bad offensive line, bad skill position players, changing, coaches every couple of years. Like, he never had any stability. But on top of that, I also don't know, like, what could change from him from a play style standpoint. Like, that's my question to you is like,
oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean,
I have a good answer here.
But like, what?
No, I do.
What would we expect that's going to be different? I mean, that's the whole point, right? Like, you have to be different, I would imagine, if you want to redeem and have the Sam Darnold career arc or whatever.
So let's put Sam Darnold aside for a second because I do think that he got dropped in such a fabulous situation that it's a little bit different.
Justin Jefferson helps. Kevin O'Connell helps.
Right. And they, again, but I know they went all in on the interior offensive line, but they actually had really good tackle play. They had Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill, who are a great, one of probably maybe the best tackle tandem in football. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but they're up there. Anyway, so let's take Sam Darnold. I'm sorry, take them all out of it. Think about Baker Mayfield. Think about Geno Smith. At least for me, when I watch those two guys play in their previous stops versus the way I watch them play now, I actually think they had similar issues to what Daniel Jones had in New York, which I think Dan highlighted, which was they took a lot of the aggressiveness out of him. They got real. They put him in this bubble wrap and said, stop turning the ball over. He fumbled a lot early in his career, so that was a problem, but they really wanted to get rid of all the turnovers. They didn't want him to take any chances with the ball, and he stopped kind of being aggressive and pushing the ball downfield. That was a big problem last year. When I watched Geno Smith and I watched Baker Mayfield, and Geno did a lot of things with like negating pressure and some other steps, but there is so much, and again, I try not to curse too much on your podcast here, but the way these two play now, if you watch them play, there is so much fuck it in their football that it's the best. Like, they are like, oh, there's a seam ball and there's a safety coming. I'm gonna rip it. I'm gonna rip it and see if I can make it throw. And if I throw a pick, I throw a pick. Watch Geno. He throws some stupid picks in the end zone, but it's not because he doesn't see it. It's because he thinks he can fit it into a friggin' like needle hole. That's how what he thinks. Baker Mayfield, same way, man. He's gonna throw. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he's like, I'm gonna let it rip. Mm-hmm. That is what happened. I think they got a new lease on life when they got released by their teams and said, "You're done." They cast you aside, and they said, "You know what? F it. Like, what's gonna happen? I'm not gonna be a starter anymore. No one's gonna think I'm a top pick anymore. I'm just gonna let it rip." If Daniel Jones can have that transition in his life, maybe the light goes on. I'm not saying it will. He's 20. He's older than those guys are. Maybe the light bulb goes on, though, for him. That's the only thing I could see. Like, he just says, forget it. Like, I have a huge arm. I'm just going to let it rip. And what's the worst case that happened? They cut me? It's a 1-year contract. That's what Baker and Geno had to deal with, too. What's the worst can happen? Are they going to bench me? I've been on the bench before. Like, this has happened. That's the light bulb I think that needs to go on for Daniel Jones if something is going to be different. I don't know that it will be, but that's what I think has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thought of a Daniel Jones who is caged up and passive and super safe, what does that do for you? What does that change?
Pointless. Yeah.
Like, I mean, to me, if that is the version you would get by putting him in over Anthony, which I will pound this until it changes. I don't think that they're gonna bench Anthony before he starts another game for this franchise. I truly don't believe that. However, if you insert Daniel Jones at any point,
Yeah.
and the idea is like, oh, he can just take care of the ball and keep our offense like kind of humming, and we can win some games. Like in theory, yeah, you're supposed to win however you can, but it's like when I watch. I'm gonna get on my soapbox. It's like when I watch these high school basketball games and they hold the ball in the playoffs and the other team just sits back in a zone. And so, yeah, you might be able to win a high school basketball game by pulling some crap like that. Hold the ball for 4 minutes, 6 minutes against a better team, whatever. And we're going to win 22-20 in some terribly boring game. It's similar in football. Like you might be able to win some games like that, but you're not going to win the biggest game. You're not going to advance through the state tournament, or in this case, through the playoffs and win a Super Bowl like that. And so
yeah.
that to me is why the idea of that is kind of weird. So before Daniel Jones came in and talked to us yesterday, he actually met with Shane Steichen. And once they said that, I was like, oh, we're going to be here a while. I mean, we had to be at the facility at 1:30. We didn't talk to Daniel Jones, I don't think, until maybe 3:30. Like it was a while. Like I got to watch almost the entire IU game, waiting on this guy. And because I can only imagine what Shane Steichen is trying to, sell him on and dial him up on. And so perhaps that is being more aggressive. Joel Erickson from Indy Star, or Joel A. Erickson, I'm sorry. He asked Daniel Jones that at the end of the press conference. And again, Daniel didn't answer really anything. Oh, yeah, you might want to think more downfield with some stuff, be more aggressive when you can. But like, no, dude, you have to be. Because if you're not, no one's going to pick up even after this season. If you close out your 1-year deal with the Colts and you move on, no one's going to pick up a, scared version of Daniel Jones. Like you have to go out there and be different, a lot different than what you've been. And then I also think that it's not the elephant in the room is going to have to be addressed at some point. And so I know sometimes I'm just like crass. It is what it is. I'm thinking we waited 2 hours to talk to you, dude. What you got to do to win the starting job? Now, I know you probably was thinking this is the most New York question ever. Like, I'm not there anymore, but I don't care because, and I don't say it's in a disrespectful manner. This is why we're all here. This is why you're here. Like, spare me with all the, I want to be a great teammate. I want to show up every day. I want to work hard, learn the playbook. Spare me all of that. You came to Indianapolis because you looked at Anthony Richardson and said, I can take his job. That's the guy honest truth. You looked at the situation and said, I can be the starter there. That's why you came. Otherwise, I mean, if you didn't think you were going to win the job, or you had a worse chance of winning the job, you would have stayed in Minnesota. And so I say all that to say, man, like, you can say all of the, sweet nothings, which is pretty much what Daniel Jones said yesterday. He did say that the most intriguing part that he said was like, and I believe it was Mike Chappell asked him, what did they sell you on, or what did they tell you? And he was like, was did they kind of talk to you about the competition that's open? And he was like, well, they told me it's a chance to compete. I think it'll be good for everybody. Anthony's a great young player, and I'm excited to get to work. And I think the part about like it's going to bring the best out of everybody is like the closest he came to basically acknowledging, it's time to get it on. And so we'll see where it goes from there. But again, listening to Dan and then transcribing that story and writing that story and reading other people about, Daniel Jones and their reaction, he sounds so eerily similar to Anthony. It is crazy. Like Dan had this quote he gave me in the story where he's like, yeah, and the most frustrating part about all of this is that he looks the part.
Yeah, right.
OTAs in a shirt, he's big. He looks the part. And I was like, but he can't put it all together. And I was like, dang, if I gave you that quote, no headline, no sourcing, no attribution, you would think I'm talking about Anthony. And I was like, wow. And then even just, I didn't put this in the story, but little things like he was like, yeah, his teammates love him because he doesn't slide. He'll run and lower the shoulder. And I'm like, we talked about lowering shoulders for months after Anthony broke his, essentially, or messed up his shoulder in his rookie season. So again, I think that Daniel Jones has to be a lot different if he is the guy. But for Anthony in particular, and I guess we can pivot to this part of it, it's now or never. It's on. Your competition is here. He's on your trail, and you cannot slip up. Like, obviously you have to play well to keep the job or maintain your status as the face of the franchise, potentially even, have it click in year three. You have to do all these things. It's a lot of pressure, but you definitely cannot slip up in your work ethic because that is the thing that you've been knocked for that Daniel Jones hasn't been.
Y-
And I'm not saying Anthony Richardson can't change that. He's young, and who knows? He might come back this offseason and be like, James, you were talking all this stuff about me. I'm locked in. More props to you. We just can't hear any more of that.
Right.
And honestly, Jim, I don't know, and this is being honest, I don't even know how I would quantify it because the team told us for the better part of a year and a half that Anthony Richardson was a great young man. And to all accounts, he is, but I mean, like a great worker, hard worker, comes in early, stays late, and then, come to find out, maybe all that isn't true because you
Mm-hmm.
benched them for a lack of preparation and attention to detail. So I'm like, I can't even really believe what you guys say because what you said didn't add up. And so I'm curious to see how Anthony responds to it and also what it ultimately means because the more I think about it, I'm like, man, like, is this a real competition? Like, because if it is, what's the ceiling? That's what I asked Dan. Like, what's the ceiling, Jim? Like, you pivot to Daniel Jones. What's the ceiling?
Yeah.
What?
8, 9, 10 wins. 10 wins would be the dream. 8, 9 wins maybe. Again, it's you either if everything clicks like the way I just talked about a little bit ago with Daniel Jones and the light bulb goes on for him, maybe it's higher. Like again, I don't know. I think everybody talking about Baker Mayfield ahead of the Bucs season. So what's the ceiling with Baker Mayfield? I mean, don't forget he was in a competition with Kyle Trask, and a lot of people thought Kyle Trask was going to win that job that going into the training camp that year, and it ended up being Baker. He ended up being playing some of the best ball, well, the best ball of his life, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Geno Smith went in the competition with Drew Lock. Everybody thought Drew Lock was going to win that competition, and it ended up being Geno Smith. So
Mm-hmm.
crazy things have happened in the NFL. I don't. Again, if you were asking me to bet, do I think Daniel Jones is going to have the light bulb come on? He's going to change and win the competition and be a different quarterback in Indy? No, I don't. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I don't want to dismiss the possibility just because we've seen this kind of thing happen before. And he does have the talent, like Dan was saying. He has the build. He has the mentality. I think in terms of being kind of a fierce competitor. Again, just because he's milk toast as an interview doesn't mean he's not a pretty competitive dude. Like
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
the things I know Dan has told you that. I remember listening to Darius Slayton talk about that. Like very
Yeah.
competitive guy, and wants to win. And I don't. He's not ready to quit on his NFL career right now. He's not going to
No.
give up on this whole thing. So
It's a make or
but to
break
get
year
an
for him too. Honestly.
100%. Yeah. That's the same thing. You know what? That's funny. We've been saying if Anthony Richardson can't beat out Daniel Jones, then he's not a franchise quarterback. You know what? If Daniel Jones can't beat out Anthony Richardson the way it's gone so far, not a good look for Daniel Jones either, honestly. I mean, look at around the perception of Daniel Jones around the, I mean, I'm sorry, of Anthony Richardson around the league isn't great right now. Like it just isn't. There aren't a lot of people who left who have faith in that he can still develop. Now, he gets to prove them or try to prove them all wrong during training camp, essentially is where he gets to start, and then during the season if he indeed wins the starting job. But he hasn't really earned the benefit of the doubt from anybody. So, yeah, they're both coming into this competition. I'm not going to say equal. I think you're right. I mean, I honestly do believe the Colts. It's I wouldn't say it's a stacked, you know, in Richardson's favor, but they want him to win. Of course, they want him to win the competition. He's going to get the first reps, like in practice, right? Like that's what's going to happen. He'll get the
Mm-hmm.
first reps, even if they end up splitting him with Daniel Jones. And he'll probably get the first start in the first preseason game. I think that's the way it's going to play out, and they're going to want him to win this competition. But I do think he's going to have to earn it. I truly do. And if he can't beat out Daniel Jones, then yeah, then he's probably going to have to go somewhere else and help to have his own reclamation project somewhere, on a different team in a different place. But
There you go.
I'm sticking with you. I think he's young. I think he's learned from. I'm hoping he's learned from his mistakes. We'll see what happens.
So we got some breaking news on the podcast. Kylan Granson to the Eagles on a 1-year deal, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter.
Oh, Eagles tight ends is something I'd love to talk about on this podcast.
I know you. I know you would. I know you would. With them reportedly, I mean, does that might change things materially for them? Like, do they move off of who was it, Dallas Goddard or
Dallas Goddard is out there, or at least according to I think Jordan Schultz is the one reporting that they're shopping
Yeah.
Dallas Goddard and
So-
Bryce Huff. So we're
So-
we're looking into it here at the Athletic to see if there's anything to it. But
I'm not
don't
surprised by
mind the
this
fit.
though. I'm not surprised
Yeah.
by this with Kylan Granson. I
No,
felt like
yeah.
this was his last little stint with the Colts. Never really materialized for him. But just want to bring that to you all's attention as we roll through free agency. I'll be writing that up for the tracker here pretty soon after
That's
this pod.
We could talk. I mean, transition real quick. That's one of the last. This is one of the last holes, like true holes they have. They can obviously upgrade at other spots. We've talked about it. I actually do. And the more I thought about it, I think the guys on the Athletic Football Show talked about it, like during the draft. Kind of think they're in a prime spot to take a tackle. I really do, like an offensive lineman in the draft. But I know people are going to shoot me because I didn't say Tyler Warren, so that's whatever. But if they do get a tight end, a veteran tight end in free agency of the trade, or again, there's not a lot of free agents left or anyone that's really that attractive. But that is like the last true hole on this roster, in my opinion. Do you agree? I mean, like, is that like other spots could stand to be upgraded, but like this is the last true. Like, we don't even know who the starter is going to be.
Absolutely. I think tight end is a maybe like the biggest headlining like move. I don't know if it's most important. I do think like you got to upgrade it. The trenches, defensive end needs some work, defensive line needs some work, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't neglect tight end obviously because they've done it or not done it, but they haven't hit that position successfully for years. And so I'm curious to see how the Colts kind of get into that. Obviously, linebackers another position they want to get into, but like you said, we don't know. Like right now, I can probably look at the depth chart at most positions and say this guy's going to start here, this guy's going to start there. Tight end, I have
Yeah.
no idea because I don't have any on the roster right now that are even starting caliber, in my opinion. And so that's something to keep in mind. The last thing I guess we can end it with is, one more quick thing on Daniel Jones. I did ask why it didn't work out in New York and what needs to be different, and he didn't really say. He was like, "There's a number of reasons why," and he said we can get into them. And I was thinking, can we really? Can we really? Because I was like, be specific. Break it. Tell me the Giants. You know what? It's all their fault. They ruined me. But no, he did not really get into that. But he did say there's things he could have done better, and obviously he'll have to do them much better here to not only get the Colts to believe in him, but to get another franchise beyond the Colts to believe in him. Because either way, I don't think that he's going to be like the long-term answer here. I think that it's similar to what we've seen in the past, where like the one, like in what we just saw most recently with Sam Darnold, where it's like you go somewhere, it's like a grad transfer year. You go somewhere, you ball out, and then you go off to the league or whatever. And we'll see, what that means for those two quarterbacks, Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, in the coming months. And so I'm excited about that. But to end our show, the last segment, Jim, your reaction when I send you a book on
Oh,
kickers at I don't know 9:30 your time or whatever it was, and I was, and real quick, this is why I did this, and I'll let you jump in. So Spencer Strader shines. I kind of
yeah.
missed it because I was in the middle of doing all the interviews, and I'm like, let me add it up to the tracker, and I was like, wait a second, let me ask around what kind of deal is it? Okay, 2 year deal, 2 years. That's kind of intriguing.
Yeah.
Tweeted that out, and then the
Yeah.
reaction from the fan base was like, "What does this mean? What does this mean? Huh? What do you mean? Like, this is not." And I was like, "Dang, I am the reporter. Like, I'm supposed to not just report, but like add context." So I had to really ask around some more. Went down a rabbit hole, and it looks like we could have a potential kicking competition this offseason. I do say potential because I still think that Matt Gay is the leader in the dughouse, but Spencer Strader is signing for 2 years when Matt Gay has no guarantee money left on his deal is noteworthy.
Again, I think it
I don't
getting me
want to
to talk
I
about
don't want to overblow it either, though. I mean, like,
no, no.
still, Matt Gay has had a
Getting me to
lot more
talk about
experience.
getting me to talk about kickers is tough. I was there for the Adventary years. I swore off talking about kickers for the rest of my life after that. I will say I whatever about Matt Gay did not have has not been as good a kicker as they'd hoped he would be when they signed him.
I mean, the numbers are
Uh,
there too. You can read them
yeah,
off, but yeah,
yeah,
they're
for sure. Only thing I'll say is that I think it's just this is actually a good way to tie this podcast up because I think it's how we started. It's Chris Ballard following through on what he said he would do. He's going to add competition at every layer of this roster that he can. I mean, obviously there are going to be some constraints depending on the finances or who's available, but
mm-hmm.
he's not stopping at quarterback, right? We just
Yep.
stop. We not stopping at corner. He's not stopping at safety. He's not stopping at all the other spots that he is going to add to either through the draft or the rest of this free agency. Like kicker, even though we paid you to be the guy, I think you mentioned the highest paid at the time, the highest paid free agent kicker contract ever handed out. He's not gonna. That's not gonna stop him anymore. He's not gonna just rest on the. Nobody's gonna get the rest on their laurels. No one. That is the message to me that
Mm-mm.
it sends, and I appreciate that. So whether or not this turns out to be anything, whether or not actually there is a kicking competition or Spencer Strader's on the team, and in September, who knows? We'll find out. But I like the message that it sends.
Yes, and to give you all like just a snapshot of what I mean by potential kicking competition. Um, like Jim pointed out, Matt Gay has taken a significant dip in his efficiency, accuracy, whatever you want to call it, since coming to. Indianapolis. I mean, this guy was one of the most accurate kickers in league history before coming over to Indianapolis, and that has not been the case. Um, you know, I'm looking at his 2 years with the Colts. He is at 82.1% of making his field goal attempts, 64 of 78, compared to 92.5%, 74 of 80 across 3 years with the Rams. He's had a lot of struggles with 50-yarders. Since joining the Colts, he's 11 of 22, 50-plus yard field goals, 50%. 3 years in LA prior to coming to Indy, he was 12 of 15, 80%. That is pretty significant. Now, the reason why I say it's still a long shot for him to like lose his job is because he didn't miss from inside 50 last year. So I think it's very hard to move on from a kicker because 50-yard field goals, no matter what we do, I know Justin Tucker made a ton of them. I mean, even he's slipping, and obviously he got his own situation going on legally. But when you don't miss from inside 50, I don't know if that's like enough for you to lose your job. Like he made every other kick. I know it was rough in preseason. It was rough at times during the season, but he made every other kick inside 50. And he's done it at a longer time than Spencer Schrader. Like Spencer Schrader, he played 4 games last year. 4. He was 5 for 5, 9 of 9 on extra points, but he also never attempted a kick over 50 yards. And so I say all this to say, like, everyone loves to kind of beat up the current kicker. Like, oh, man, this guy's not good. This isn't like Vinatieri missing, like, extra points and, like, just, falling off a cliff. It's shaky, but it isn't that bad. I know you're like shaking in disgust right now.
I was just I'm getting like flashbacks to those games and watching. Remember Chris Ballard just furious. Yeah.
But the most notable thing to me is the money and how the money shifts and why training camp I think will be such a big point of emphasis to kind of focus on with the kicking competition or the two kickers is because if you look at Matt Gay, his cap hit right now in this year is $6.7 million. Again, no more guaranteed money left. If the Colts were to release him today, before June 1st, they would only create $2.7 million in cap space while still having to pay $4 million in dead money. And dead money, in layman's terms, is like what the money you have to pay when you cut a guy just because. Like, it's just part of the rules. However, that number flips a little bit if you label him as a post-June 1 releasal. So in that case, if they release him post-June 1 and he loses the job or whatever, they would create $4.7 million in cap space versus only $2 million in dead money. So that's a bigger difference, and you get more back to spend on yourself, essentially, versus losing more because you cut him before June 1st. So if and it's a big if, I still think, if we were to see a decision on the kicker, it will be post-June 1st. But again, I think this just kind of breeds into what you said and what Chris Ballard has said. He ain't playing around. You are going to compete for your job, even if you are one of 2 kickers or if you're one of 6 or 7 new cornerbacks or defensive backs, whatever the case may be. You are going to have to raise your level if we want to get to where we want to go. And so even that little nugget, I might be the only one in Indianapolis nerding out about the kicking competition.
You are. You've talked longer about it than I expected you to.
Brother, I'm just fascinated because I
love it.
It is from the top down. Like every morsel of whoever I thought Chris Ballard was has changed in like the last, week. And so I just think that this is something you kind of keep an eye on it. Don't sweat too much over it. But
it's a great point, though. No, you're right.
It feels
Though
different.
I will say this. If you don't want to kick field goals that are longer than 50 with Matt Gay, I have a solution for you. Just go for it. Just go for it.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like the guys who are like, just score. I'm like, well, yeah.
No. I'm the guy. Listen, man, if you're on the other side, if you're on the opponent's side of the field, I'm pretty much going to say go for it. Unless it's like, it's a pretty long distance.
Any 4th and 2 from the opposite side of the field.
Go.
Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, that one thing they both do well is run the ball.
Run. Yep.
So, that's pretty intriguing there as well. So,
so you don't have to worry about 50-yard kicks. You got Matt Gay. He's money from 49. Was it 49 and closer? You're good. Yeah, don't worry about it.
There you go. And so,
solved it. Fixed it.
That's pretty much all we have to recap the week. We have Charvarius Ward signing. We had Spencer Schrader, obviously the kicker. Danny Pinter's back. They announced officially Khalil Herbert, the running back. We caught up with him. He decided to get with JT. What does that mean for the running back room? Neville Gallimore, defensive tackle, more depth there. Wesley French is back. Ashton Dulin is back. And obviously, the bigger names, Daniel Jones, Cameron Bynum. And then to round it out, I would say the most recent one was Corey Ballantyne, free agent cornerback. Looks like he's going to be more of a special teams guy for the Colts. So that is the free agent haul so far. Of course, the grind don't stop, man. Like, and you guys can't see me, but I'm looking rough. I haven't had a haircut in 3 weeks because I've been busy trying to get things done. And we're both, me and Jim are we're looking like we don't
now,
have
man.
like, we just
Yeah.
got, we're like we don't get paid to do what we do. I promise. I do have a job. I'm employed. My mom would not be pleased with this look so far, but nevertheless, it was been a fun, busy week. We'll obviously keep you updated on what's to come next. But until then, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the weather, and enjoy the fact that you don't have to sit on your phone like me and Jim and go watch our screen time go up. So thank you all for listening, and until next time.